So under Newtonian mechanics, you have objects. Here you have a sphere, and this sphere has a persistent identity. At another moment, it is still the same sphere. At another moment, it is still the same sphere. At another moment, it is still the same sphere. What's more, there is a universal now which is sweeping forward. There's this platform, and there could be another sphere over here, which is a black sphere as opposed to a white sphere. And this black sphere, in the next moment, is still the black sphere, and is still the black sphere, and is still the black sphere, as opposed to the white sphere. And they are all in the same simultaneous platform of existence. There's the same clock which is ticking forward. This is what we used to believe and what most of humanity still believes, and it is absolutely wrong. It is wrong. You don't have identities, and you don't have a universal now sweeping forward. And therefore, we have eliminated, or we should have eliminated, yet most people still have not eliminated this idea from their heads, that you can actually die. You can't actually die if you think clearly about this. And the reason for that is because here's the picture. Here's what people do. If you are belonging to any given religion which believes in a soul, you believe that you began at some point, usually, and then usually at conception. People place it at different locations. But then the mathematical object that you believe in as yourself is called a ray. You believe that you began at some point and then you go on to infinity. If you lose your religion, if you have lost your religion, and now you think you are very smart and sciencey, then you think, oh, well, now the only mathematical object that I believe in is a line segment. That is what I am. And other people are other line segments, and so on. But the mistake that they are making here is that they are believing in that picture, in Newtonian mechanics. So they think that there is a now, which then becomes another now, which becomes another now, which applies to all objects. All objects contained in that platform of now are moving forward. This is what they believe, and this is wrong. They believe in an identity of things also, which is being pushed by this platform of now. So, for example, instead of that sphere, which was my example, they think, here's what the religious people think. The religious people think this is called soul. This is Mario's soul. Mario's soul. And here is Lindsay's soul. Lindsay's soul. And then they think this is again Mario's soul. And this is again Mario's soul. Here is Lindsay's soul. Lindsay's soul. And, okay, what do sort of science-y wannabe materialists say? They say this exact same thing, except they just replace the word soul with brain. And they think this makes sense to do. So this is what they do. They replace this with brain, and this is Lindsay's brain, and this is Lindsay's brain again, and this is Lindsay's brain again. Here's Mario's brain again, Mario's brain again, and at some point, Mario's brain breaks, and therefore existence breaks forever. And in Lindsay's own line segment, existence also breaks at some point, because the brain, which was Lindsay's brain, broke. And so this is utterly deranged in physically speaking. It's not physical. It's just as confused about reality as the religious people. It's exactly as confused. And the reason for this is because we have to be reductionists. We have to apply Occam's razor and really look at the minimal explanation for the events that we see. So if we are actually investigating what an experience may or may not be, we have to heed to a proper physical ontology. We have to understand physics in the first place and understand what we are describing. So let's take this brain, right? Because people like the idea of spheres and things which have a continuous identity. So here we have a brain, a frozen state of a brain, just a snapshot. Imagine a snapshot of a brain. What is actually happening here? So in the moment when I am looking at a box, it is a yellow box. I am seeing not only that it is a yellow box, I am seeing depth, I am seeing the fact that it's got rectangular traits. It's got letters which are a different color, they're white, and the letters themselves are symbols which are being understood. And all of these things come together into the same experience. I understand that there is a box. That experience necessarily contains pieces which are distributed in space-time. So you've got the processing for the color, the processing for the shape, the processing for the letters. The letters are a different color. There is depth perception. There's an understanding of how this all comes together. There's the understanding that it's not moving as opposed to moving, and so on. And all of these pieces are in different regions of space-time. What's more, relativity implies that there is no universal now which was sweeping forward. There is no time sweeping forward anywhere in relativity. So, all of these pieces are coming together to form a shape which is timeless. It doesn't care about where it's happening in spatiotemporal distance. It doesn't care about the fact that there is no time. There is no time in reality. And yet we still have this experience. So we could just as easily say that this wasn't Mario's brain, but this was over here Mario 1's brain, and over here this was like Mario 2's brain, and this was Mario 3's brain, and so on. Like, you can't really say that at any given point you aren't already using information from some other brain. The very idea that it is my brain as opposed to any other brain is arbitrary, because all the pieces going into an experience already contain instantaneous access to information processing that is quite far in space-time. And by quite far, it's, that's arbitrary. Everything is arbitrary. Distance is arbitrary here. And so then this allows you many things. For one, it allows you to wake up in the morning. It allows cryonics to work. It allows, if someone simulates some particular brain pattern a trillion years from now for absolutely no reason, which happens to remember you, then that will be you. Insofar as these computations fit into that keyhole and go into creating an experience, in the same way that this processing for the shape of the box fit as a key into a keyhole into the processing of color, and therefore gives me a yellow box. In that same way, these computations are already being harvested, used by future computations that from this indexical location you know not of. You do not know what they contain or anything like this. There is no sort of a room. There is no room which with walls to which everything really is stuck into, or bounded by, limited by. The room itself is just all computational space. All computations have immediate, instantaneous access to all other computations in computational space. Every single computation that is ever done can have access to any other computation. And the only way to actually experience it, of course, is by being that, by being inside of it. The problem of identity, the problem of why am I one experience as opposed to another, arises from thinking that you have to be one as opposed to another. And this is itself arbitrary, because imagine if we inserted another, you think you're a line, again, you think you're this line traveling. Well, imagine we inserted here some random experience from over here, from some other line segment over here, and we put this into here, and then deleted all trace of it in that very next moment. In that very next moment, this contained the element of having forgotten that experience from over here. Do you expect anything to be different? Like if all of a sudden you became me, do you expect to remember once you went back to you? If you are strictly a physical configuration, then no, because you are that physical configuration which does not contain a memory of me. You are that which is just that. So this is the idea of no self. There is no self in the entire thing, because after all, it's just a physical contraption. Everything only contains information pertaining to itself at that very precise particular moment. So that means that you end up being all experiences. We are already all experiences, and what's more, they are timeless. There is no time. Time is being created in these shapes with all their pieces already distributed in space-time. So every little piece going into creating the experience of time, in the same way that it is creating the experience of a box with a color, are distributed in relative reference frames. So time isn't a real thing in to the universe. It's a real thing from the inside of some computational shape. Some computational shape is what it is to experience time. And that's it. So if there is no time, and if there is no separation of self and other in the first place, then whence cometh death? Where do you die? I don't see how it even makes sense to speak of non-existence in something which is just a physical object, which necessarily exists, given that here I am.